Hello and welcome in. I am Miss Kinghorn and we are back here in Planet Zoo. And we are building for a brand new animal, and this time we are doing a habitat for the expected bear. These guys are adorable. I do have a couple of issues with them and we'll get into that later. But yeah, they are a super cute little animal. They came with the Zookeeper DLC that we got not too long ago. And so this is actually going to be the only animal that we use from that pack in here. For every sort of new pack, I kind of go through and look at the animals and go, what's going to fit, what's not going to fit. And at the moment, I don't see how we can really get any of the other animals into this sort of America Zoo. Obviously there are some animals from other places as well, but not too many, so I don't know. If you have any ideas, maybe any animal sort of suggestions you want to see in here, let me know. No guarantees, but we'll see what we can do. But yes, so for this one I kind of wanted I didn't want to put them behind a big fence. I didn't want to put them like behind bars, behind like a mesh screen or anything. I wanted you to have a really nice open view. So I figured let's put a kind of an open moat kind of in here. Now the bears obviously in the wild can swim. They don't actually go into the water in game at all. I think the closest they've come is like wading in like a tiny bit of water, and that's really just to walk around it. But yeah, so I think it's okay. Obviously the cliff is also like a sheer cliff where it comes to the guests, and there is actually a small barrier, so for that I think the sort of guests are safe in terms of the animals escaping or anything like that. But this is sandbox mode, so I do have escaping off and things like that, so they can't get out in there as well. But yeah, you can sort of see here I've created a little bit more of a moat, and then I wanted to kind of have those tiers that I normally do in here, so kind of creating a different height levels into this whole sort of area. Now this is, I actually went through and I walked through this sort of section of the zoo, and the terrain is really weird, and I didn't actually realise when I was doing it at the time that you kind of go up for a little while and then you come like straight back down, and there's no real definition to it. It's just kind of like a little bump in the whole sort of zoo in the terrain here. So I feel like I need to maybe work on some sort of getting the terrain in the right places and things like that as to how I want this whole zoo to come out. It's very flat, unfortunately, but yeah, we're doing our best in here. Now this is actually the lower section, so this is opposite the prairie dogs that we did last time. So this is their path, which is obviously dropped down. So I wanted something on this side to kind of break up that sort of sharp cliff that we had in there. But now we are working on the hard shelter. Now I said in the last one that I wanted to do a little bit more of a detailed hard shelter, and we definitely do that today with sort of different separation pens and things like that. It's not completely detailed, like not everything is in here, but there's a lot more detail in here than what I would sort of normally do. And yeah, I hope you like it all. That's why this episode is a little bit longer than normal, because yeah, we have quite a lot to go in here, and I didn't want to make it too fast that you can't really watch it, because sometimes with videos like that they're actually really difficult to watch, and me personally I just sort of tune them out or switch off. So I wanted to kind of keep this at a nice normal pace in here and get all of this set up. But yeah, we have our normal limestone kind of walls that we have on the outside, and then as per usual we kind of come in and we clad it all and we make it all sort of normal and very much in keeping with what we have throughout the rest of the zoo in here. But you can see I have placed in some of the animal doors in here, where it is, I feel like with this I kind of flip-flop, and I really try not to do this, but this is me we're talking about, and when I start to do something I think, oh, that could work over here, and oh, I could do this, and yeah, we go off on tangents, I'm afraid, and today is no exception for this. So putting in the plasterboard that we normally get in, this time in a nice dark green in here. Now this building here doesn't have the best lighting, and I apologise for that. It's kind of the placement of the habitat is, it's in a pretty good place for the sort of the viewing areas, but this sort of indoor section is quite a challenge in here. And yeah, we just go all the way around here, and by magic there is the pathing set up. So I wanted a dedicated kind of viewing area for them that's not on the path, that you kind of have to come off the path to sort of view them, and so that's why I have kind of created these nice little areas. You'll see them as we go along. There is a sort of a circular one that can get you really close, and then there is also a longer sort of one which has a lot more education and things like that in as well. Now these are actually some of the best animals we actually have in the zoo at the moment. They're sort of the top level animals that lots of people want to come and have a look at. So they are quite busy, which I think is absolutely fine, because they're not, although they are quite shy animals and they do spend a lot of time indoors, which I mean isn't ideal if you're in a zoo, but you know, they have plenty of space outside, and you'll sort of see when we come to the climbing the problems I had. Yeah, and even actually going back into the zoo today, because this was filmed about 3 days ago, coming back into the zoo, I had a complaint, and they didn't have enough climbing, even though they were currently climbing. And it's just little things like that that don't really make a lot of sense, and I don't quite understand why. Sometimes it works, sometimes it really doesn't, and yeah, it's just one of those strange little things within the game in here. But what you're seeing is me putting in the wooden posts all around the sort of outside of the building. I don't place them at like full height. I kind of go like a halfway. I think these are 2 meter pieces, which works out okay, because I didn't want it to be all clad. I feel like I've looked at a lot of the sort of buildings that we have in the zoo, and they are very much sort of wooden full cladded buildings, and it just wasn't really, I feel like I've done it too many times. So I kind of wanted something half and half, kind of to break it up, and especially because the Cayman house that we have was kind of a very concrete, kind of brutalist, kind of modern build, whereas obviously all of the others are like timber and things like that. So I thought doing something halfway kind of would make a little bit more sense to kind of make it all fit in a little bit nicer than what we have got at the beginning. So yes, now as I say, we do end up with 2 holding pens in here, so they can be separated, and then they have, I'm not going to say 2 outside areas. They have like little kind of like fenced in areas that are more like walkways that they can both sort of access. I have actually opened both of them up so they can go through both of them, and they can walk around everywhere at the moment as well. I did have a few issues with the hitboxes, and the team have worked amazingly well with some of the latest animals to try and make the hitboxes as small as they really can be. This is not one of them, and you'll see it in one of the screenshots at the very end, so definitely stick around for that. There is one image where they're eating a watermelon, and they're like a foot away from it, like maybe 15-20 centimeters away from the watermelon, but they're eating it, and it's just that they can't like get close to anything. And even when they're actually climbing, they're kind of levitating because they can't touch the sort of wooden climbing frame. It's such a weird thing that when you actually sort of look at them closely, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And yeah, if they can go back to working on it and making it really sort of tight and small hitboxes, that would be brilliant. But yeah, you'll see all of those later on. So I did say that we had some difficulties, and the doors in here change, the sort of all of these things that I'm going to do right here kind of has to grow, and it changes because the animals just could not get in here. So you're seeing me build quite small little openings and things like that. Yeah, it changes. I feel like it's one of those things where when you're building it, you don't really know how big you need to make it, and you're sort of trying to make it fit as best as it can, but you also know that you're probably slightly out. This one, I wasn't slightly out, I was way out, and it took maybe about 4-5 attempts to kind of change things and move things and testing and stuff like that to get it all into place. But this here is the outside of the sort of HUD shelter area. I do change where the keeper gate goes. I realised my stupidity with that one. So yes, that does change, that does move, and in the end we actually have the keeper gate out on the back against the rock wall, and they sort of come along this sort of back fence that we're working on now, and sort of they can interrupt the animals kind of along here, so if they need to check them for their teeth or their paws or their claws or anything, because obviously a lot of zoos have like their handling where the vets come in and they maybe check them over, or just sort of routine things, maybe it's like feeding them inside or something like that. And you'll sort of see I kind of try to incorporate some of that on the inside as well when we get to that. But yes, so yeah, we are slowly getting there with this little one. It took me a while to kind of figure out what I wanted this area to be, and it's something I have created in the past for different habitats and things like that, but it's not something I've really looked into, and I didn't quite know what I wanted it to look like in my head. Normally with things I can picture them, and I was using a lot of different sort of reference images from different zoos for different sort of animal holding shelters, from big cats to bears to pretty much anything that really needs to be separated. And to be fair, that most animals need to be separated at some point. Normally for, like, as I said earlier, health checks or introduction. So if there's a new animal coming in, they'll keep them slightly separate but let them sort of see each other, smell each other, sort of be in the same sort of room but not quite together, if that makes any sense to anyone. Let me know if you don't understand at all what I'm talking about. I would try to explain it a bit better. But yeah, I kind of wanted there's sort of two areas to be in here but separate, but like you can shut them off but you can also have them open and things like that. So yeah, it was a bit of a confusing one, and I didn't necessarily know how I wanted it to look here. So I'm using, as I say, lots of different references, lots of different ideas, and everywhere does it differently. There's no one set sort of standard for these things, so trying to make it up as I go along, which, yeah, it's not very good when I normally am a reference builder and I tend to build what I see in here, but we're getting there. We are getting there with this little bit in here. So as you can see, these little bits here, they eventually grow because the animals can't get through them. So I kind of looked at it and thought, well, it's a 4 metre piece, so they're probably about 2 metres wide. They need 2 metre space, so that'll be fine. So I'll have a metre on each side, and that'll be okay. And we'll keep the height that right. Yeah, that'll be right. Yeah, no. What we basically end up with, I think it's probably about 1 metre between the two sides. So we end up basically having to create like a 3 metre square hole in the middle of this, which is ridiculous. When you actually see the animal in the middle of them, it does not make any sense. But anyway, as I say, hit boxes for these animals, ridiculously large, unnecessarily large as well, in here. But I'm also creating the sort of black kind of control boxes, so you can kind of lower these, you can raise them up if you need to, kind of you can separate them like however you kind of want, whatever configuration you really wanted here. So there's the two sort of habitat, or sort of the ones for the hard shelter, then there are these two out here, and then there is one to actually go to the actual outdoor habitat as well. So in total you have 5 of these doors, and you can kind of change whichever one you really wanted to. So if you only wanted them to be inside, you can do that. If you wanted to have them on the outside, you can do that, or only have one. You can change it however you really want it to be into here. But I thought I would use some really cool sort of bright yellow kind of markings around the edge here to kind of indicate this is like a moving part, this is like your safety feature kind of thing, because I feel like yellow is that like one colour that stands out, and especially because I've used black kind of mesh and I've used black piping and things like that, the yellow really stands out quite nicely in here. And then obviously we have got the silver kind of gate kind of thing that would drop down if you wanted it shut. I did actually, when I was changing the size of these, I did actually make them slightly bigger because they wouldn't fully shut, let's put it that way, if we just used a single piece that I used here. But yeah, we are getting there. So then adding in some extra little fencing here because I didn't quite fit into here how I really wanted to, and then yeah, and then as I say, using these little black boxes, you can see just down this one side there are 3 of them for the 3 different gates in here, and they're all sort of controlled individually. They're actually really simple to put together, so I used they're kind of like metal sort of square, I think they're like for the iron or steel girder kind of items we had, that you kind of like, they're sort of secured to the ground. I kind of used those and turned them inside out, and then I just added in a little air vent to them, and also put in a plug or an outside plug socket and a switch as well, just to kind of give you that kind of idea that they are functional. Like you could just maybe open the flap, put a key in, push the button, and it would all sort of work how you really wanted them to go into here. And then also having again that yellow kind of marker to say that this is as close as you really want to get. Like, these are wild animals, or these are dangerous animals. They can be a little bit too dangerous at times, and they might take a swipe at you or something like that, so you don't want to get too close to them. And yeah, a few little background props in here as well. A couple of hay boughs in there for if they need to sort of have their bedding changed or anything like that, or maybe it's like enrichment that you kind of throw over the top or something like that for them in here as well. This kind of area, I actually change all of this location. So I looked at this and as we were building it, and I kind of went, this isn't really where I want it to be. I kind of felt like it needed to be slightly in a different position. So I basically pivot the whole building round and move it so that it makes a little bit more sense in there, and it gives me a little bit more room for the sort of habitat outside space as well. But yeah, that's what we're doing in here. And I said earlier on about like health checks or anything like that, these little black sort of boxes, it was something that I saw quite a lot of, where they would have little boxes where the animals would put like their feet, or they would like stand on them to then like show you their belly, that sort of thing, for checking if there's any injuries or anything like that. That's kind of what my thinking is for that. Let's put it that way. That's kind of what I was thinking there. But you can sort of see I have brought these boxes from the outside in here as well, so that they have all of this in here. And yeah, this is now going to be one of the pens in here. A little bit of hay and leaves down for them, and I do also place out some enrichment tools for them in here as well. They don't necessarily stay in here. They have a tendency to go for a little bit of a walk. I do also get in the water bowl sort of feeder in there for them. I don't necessarily know if they use it or if they go for the one that's sort of outside. I use this one because it doesn't need a keeper to top it up, whereas some of the other ones, the keepers need to come in, and the keepers don't have access to this indoor section. So I didn't really want to put any like food in here. I didn't want to kind of make it so that the animals, like, the keepers had to come in here for anything, because obviously they couldn't just physically do that. So yeah, I end up placing just the water in here, and then some toy enrichment, which I do actually believe the hose pipe that was in the other one was outside. At some point, I have a feeling when I was playtesting this, and you'll sort of see I do a little bit of trickery. I do actually get the animals in before we start to do the exterior habitat, because I wanted to playtest and make sure that it all kind of worked before I kind of committed to how I wanted it to be. So yeah, there is actually animals in here when it's being built, but yeah, hopefully you don't see them. I'm thinking about it. I don't know if they're in the background. Oops. Anyhow, lighting coming through in here. Now, I don't tend to place windows in these kind of areas here. I don't necessarily know why I don't do windows or anything like that. I feel like because they're kind of sleeping rooms for these animals, that I would like them to be quite dark sort of spaces. I don't tend to place sort of too much light coming in that it would stop them from being able to sleep in here as well. But we're getting in the sort of normal roof trims around here, just to kind of make it fit like it fits a little bit more, and it also covers up the fact that the plasterboard does not reach quite to the end in here. But that's pretty much this hard sort of shelter being built in here. Now, I kind of flip-flop between either doing them at the beginning or at the end of a build. Today I've done them here at the front, but we're going to be moving on to the actual habitat and getting that all sorted in just a second. But yeah, a few more bits of rock, trying to work out where I want the boundary to be and things like that in here. Now, these are the same pieces that I created right at the beginning, and we used pretty much throughout the zoo in here. So if you sort of see these, I just sort of randomly pull them from everywhere. I think everybody kind of does this, any kind of YouTuber or anyone who kind of creates content and use the same pieces over and over again. We kind of have a little store at the edge of the map where we have lots of sort of bits and pieces, whether it be rock walls, whether it be trees, whether it be like foliage that we use a lot of. Sometimes it can literally be like, you know, the little text symbol, like signs you can write on. A lot of them, I actually have them down and I've written in them the colour codes that I use a lot of. What I was finding is that I was having so many post-it notes and random bits of paper with just like the codes on, that I was finding like weeks, months later, I had no clue what colour they were or what they were for or anything like that. So I've kind of now gone along and I've written them all in. So if you do see something in the background, don't worry, it's just a little store. It's right at the very end of the car park, so yeah, sometimes you might see it in the background. I try to obviously like cut it out if I have to go over there for picking up rock walls or anything like that, then yeah. But here they all are, coming along with that whole sort of back section in here, trying to place that all in to kind of fit into this nice little gap here. Now I have gone along and placed a small fence along the front here, so your guests can view it from the main sort of path if they really wanted to, but it's not the best view. The best view is obviously on the viewing platforms, which is where I really want you to kind of view it all from in here. But this is the habitat. It is absolutely huge, as per usual for me. I have gone probably way over the top, but you know, why not in here? So trying to create in some little kind of boundaries and kind of retaining walls with some of these stalactites in here. It just breaks it up really, really nicely and kind of separates different areas, and it's good for like planting and things like that. So I tend to use these quite a few places all over my habitats in here as well, and just sort of separates different spaces and different heights in here, and then we just smooth out the middle places in here. Now they can access quite a lot of this. Obviously when we come into doing planting and things like that, that's when it usually gets a little bit tricky, but you'll sort of see how that comes in a little bit later. But what we should really do is have some animal facts. We've not really done any of these for a while, but I had fun researching them. So when I was, whenever we get a new pack or any new sort of animal, I really want to have a look at kind of the animals and where they're from, sort of what, how they look and things like that, and what their needs are and stuff like that. So I figured I'd share some of those with you today. So spittle care, they are actually a vulnerable animal. I don't know off the top of my head, and maybe I should know off the top of my head how many there are in the wild. I don't think it's that many. They're sort of, how to put it, they are one of those animals I think is so kind of hidden and tucked away and secretive that it may be quite difficult to actually work out the numbers in here, but they are often sadly killed for trophies by like illegal hunters and things like that. I think because of their very distinctive markings, they're kind of one of those animals that I think maybe are targeted a little bit more, sadly. They're also used in traditional medicine. I don't necessarily know why. It's not something I've necessarily looked into, like what's used, how it's used, what the benefits. I know it's completely kind of wrong, but I don't necessarily know like what parts are sadly used. But they are solitary animals, but they're not particularly territorial, which is a little bit of a strange one. For me, most animals, if they are solitary, are very territorial, but apparently not when there is like lots of food and lots of sort of access to that food, maybe at like a peak time, if there's lots of kind of berries or meat or something like that, then maybe it's a little bit more open to having outsiders sort of come into their territory because they can share that food a little bit more. But yeah, you often just see a mum and cubs, if you do see more than one all together. But they are a medium-sized bear that are native to the Andean regions of South America, which is why they fit perfectly into this zoo in here. But they are the last remaining short-faced bear in the world. I didn't know we had a difference between short-faced and long-faced. I have to be honest, I've not really paid too much attention to that, but why not? In here. So yes, they are one of the largest carnivores in much of the South American range, and only 5% of their diet, as I said earlier, contained meat. So they do eat a lot of sort of berries and leaves and other sort of plant material, which is very different to, I think, many of the other bears that we have in game in here. But yeah, they are found in Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador and Peru. So yeah, whilst I have been waffling away with all of those facts, we have been doing all of the climbing areas for this zoo. Now, how to put this? Climbing is not my friend. It was a bit of a challenge to get this to work. So you can still see here, I have placed a really nice climbing area that is fully usable. And that's the key, it is fully usable. However, it's not. So I started off with just a little bit, and it was fine, but it wasn't enough. So I added to it. And then it was fine, and they could use it, and it was fine, but I wanted a few more little bits and pieces, which then made none of it usable. I took one piece away, and it now works. Except when I came back in the game today, it didn't work. They were literally climbing on it all, but they only had 7 meters of climbable space. So, yeah. Anyhow, it is what it is, and I've got it done, and yes, they can use it. Yes, there's enough of it, but apparently it's not enough. They can't use it, and yeah. Anyway, let's get on with the planting in here. So using a lot of the sort of little kind of fake rocks that we have, I really like how these actually all work, kind of semi-submerged into the sort of ground, and the bears can walk over pretty much all of this. As I say, their area is quite big, but where they can actually go is pretty much everywhere. You'll sort of see when I place some of the planting, I do kind of section off certain aspects of this, and I do that on purpose to kind of force the animals to walk a certain way and to kind of use certain areas, especially more at the front, because obviously it's better viewing for the guests, and I feel like it would be more natural to kind of have that sort of certain areas where they would walk. Maybe it's a little bit more clearer of plants and things like that for them in here. But yeah, lots of sort of the bracken, lots of kind of the blue plants that we're placing down here, lots of brambles coming in here. I do also have some leaves come down, so I do tend to try and place as many kind of native plants to them as I can, but also remembering this is a zoo in North America, so although the animals are from South America, this zoo is kind of based around like Florida, kind of in there, but it's in like a grassland, sort of temperate is mainly where all of the planting kind of comes from. But yes, I go a little bit crazy with the buffalo grass as per usual in here to kind of make this habitat feel really, really nice and kind of like a natural kind of area for them to be in, and then placing a little bit of mud and soil and a little bit of sand and different sort of grasses, whether it be short grass or long grass in here as well, kind of fits in here really, really nicely. And yeah, now we're up to the trees, which means we are coming up to the end of this video. If you have enjoyed it, then please give it a big thumbs up, and you can subscribe to my channel. You can also check out the playlist for the entire zoo as well. But yeah, you can find me on pretty much all social medias as well. The links to those are down in the description, so you can follow me there. But make sure to hit that bell and you'll see me again very, very soon. But until then, enjoy the screenshots and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone!